Well, I don't know if stream heard that end part, but hi everybody. Welcome to the stream. My name is ELH, and today we're doing something a little bit different on the channel. I'm actually playing for once, and somebody else is game mastering. So, a few things to say before we get into the stream proper. Is that initially this was supposed to be part of the birthday stream last Monday. The difference being that because my ISP crapped the bed, we're now doing the one shot tonight. Now, again, hopefully, all things considered, technology working, this VOD will be available on YouTube, which, again, if you're watching it, you know that already. Anyways, other things to say real quick is that we are still looking for a replacement in Motley Heights, so if you are looking to be a part of Motley Heights, go ahead and send in an application. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Do we want to introduce ourselves? I'll go last, I guess. So Aaron, Wolf, Matthew, and then me.
All right, here I go. Hey guys, I'm Aaron. I've been around for a while, so you may know my face. If you don't remember my name, that's cool because I'm really not that memorable on my own. But Tuesdays I play Captain Williams. Mondays sometimes I play Draxus the Intelligent Deathclaw. But tonight I'm playing Ensign Ithic Petrel, an Andorian who was raised on Teller Prime. So get ready.
Distant relation of Dantig, maybe?
No, but an ancestor to Dr. Petrel, the award-winning Andorian scientist.
Yeah.
Of the DS9 episode with Bashir, where he's up for the medical award.
Nice callback. I appreciate it.
It was a random name generator. I'm not a hero.
Listen, I wasn't 100% sure if Dag was here, he'd know, but I didn't, so I was just going to go with
it. That's actually fantastic and a great intro into me. I'm the other guy that's been around for a while. You might know me from Monday nights as Sergeant Nicholas T. You also might know me as Commander Soros Ras from Tuesday. Not as cool as the captain, maybe cooler. I don't know. We haven't quite determined that yet. I do have a tail. But tonight I'm taking on a bit of a different role. I will be the game master for this evening. So get ready for a wild ride.
You've so outshone me, both of you, that I can't possibly live up to the examples that you've set, but I will strive to do so. Hello, everyone. My name is Matthew. I have played numerous characters across the years in many of ELH's games, and now I'm quite fortunate to be in one of Wolf's games. This evening, I will be playing the physician's assistant, a Vulcan, by the name of Arev.
And finally, me. If this is your first time ever watching me, hi. Glad you clicked. I am ELH. I'll be playing Ignitrix herself tonight, who has usually been the fleet captain in all of my games. So this is actually a sort of glimpse behind Ignitrix's Starfleet career, as it were. But yeah, with that said, Wolf, where do you want to start?
So first and foremost, everybody, thanks for joining us. We're running an adventure. It is called The House on the Edge of Reason. It is an adventure that I wrote for Star Trek Adventures. I'm a little nervous, if I'm being candid. Very excited to be doing this, though. But what we're going to do is we're going to begin with an opening log from Iggy herself. So ELH, why don't you take it away?
Yep, I got it. Lieutenant Junior Grade Ignitrix's personal log, stardate 2158.2. It's been several hours since myself and two other junior officers embarked on an away mission towards the Galactic Center with the USS Mobius's first officer. Commander Anton has been rather tight-lipped, well, aside from scratching his left forearm and mumbling about the beginning, whatever that nonsense is. I can certainly handle your usual cloak and dagger, but something feels off about this entire affair. And not because I'm concerned that the commander might actually need medical treatment. Scans of the area we're heading into have shown absolutely nothing, which you think would be, space is big, you wouldn't expect to find something, but there's nothing, as in not a spare particle, not space dust, nothing. And as large and empty as space is, it's like we're heading into a void. The good news is that the other officers with me are capable sorts, or so their personnel records indicate. Lieutenant Junior Grade Arev has extensive focus in mental health and archaeotechnology. Meanwhile, Ensign Petrel focuses on security and engineering matters. Combined with my own skills, we have a well-rounded team. I can only hope that optimism will not backfire tremendously, though in the likely event it will anyways. I'm already working on backup plans for the inevitable worst scenario. End log.
Very, very nice. You may have an extra momentum for that. That should bring you guys up to a total of 3. So nice little start. So imagine, if you will, the exterior shot of a classic TOS air shuttle. We zoom in from the back. You see the blue glow of the nacelles. And as we zoom back, we actually pivot around the starboard side of it to the front viewports, where we see the Commander Anton, a middle-aged looking man, maybe early 40s, slightly graying hair, very angular, chiseled jaw. And he's sitting at the controls of the shuttle. He's leaning in, and you see that he's steering, driving the shuttle, that classic TOS, all the different colored lights. You don't really know what anything does, but he is steering the vessel. And as you guys are proceeding forward, to his right, you see Iggy sitting there. The commander leans over to Iggy. Iggy, make a scan in front of us. Do you see it? Do you see what's going on? As he says this, you watch as his right hand, not steering, not doing anything, but he's been kind of scratching his right leg, and then it stops, and his first 3 fingers, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. He just begins this repetitive tap. There'll be a 3-second pause, and then 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Make a long-range scan, Iggy. Tell me what you see.
Commander, I'm happy to do so, sir, but are you quite all right? You seem to be a little bit out of sorts.
Quite fine. It's fine. Just make the long-range scan. He leans back and looks over to Ensign Patel. Ensign, what do the power systems say? How is the power? What is the power at? What is the power at? He's seeming, again, a little bit more and more agitated. And Arev, being the Vulcan that you are, perhaps, you may think this is just humans being a little humany or whatnot, but even you are starting to pick up some strange mannerisms, motions, the tapping. His, runs his hand through his hair. He's just seeming more and more off as this progresses. We're going to start with the first roll of the game. ELH, you're going to go ahead and give us a, let's do a control science. Difficulty on this is going to be a 2.
All right. I'm going to spend one of our momentum for that 3 dice.
Ensign Patel, if you could go ahead and give us a control engineering, difficulty of 2 as well.
I'm assuming sensor operation is a focus?
Absolutely.
Wonderful.
Right. I'm also going to spend a point of momentum to grab an extra die.
All right. Well, I succeed, so we're going to be down to 2 or 1 momentum after your spend. I'm not seeing. Well, that is okay. Then that is one way to start.
Ensign Patel. So we're actually going to start with Ensign Patel's reading. So you are back at the engineering console. Again, it's a small shuttle, but it does have a little console for you to sit at. And as you begin checking the power readings, you notice a few, maybe perhaps disconcerting things happening. There is a minute but a significant enough power drain on the engine where within about an hour or 2, you will likely run out of power. Now, you would know based on your current position and the travel time from the actual main vessel in this shuttlecraft to wherever you're going, it took you about 4 to 5 hours to get here, so you don't have enough power to get back. Simultaneously, as you reach out, Ignitrix, and you scan with the sensors, again, you see nothing. It is though you are heading into a black void. What is interesting, though, is that up ahead, you see normal space. You see distant stars, planets. You can see the galactic center, that bright light of all of those different stars, moving around the giant supermassive black hole at the center of the galaxy. But as you reach out with the sensors, you do that forward scan, again, you're picking up nothing. And that nothingness, that, imagine as you, if you will, that you're heading towards a cliff edge. And at that cliff edge is where nothingness begins. You're about 15 minutes away from that.
So I think I turn and I report most of that to the commander, but I also turn to kind of glance back at Petrel and Arev, and I say, What about you, Ensign? Anything on your side that we should know about?
Oh, do you mean apart from the fact that within an hour we'll be completely out of power and adrift? No, nothing.
A Rev, anything on your side? And I think when I look at a Rev, I sort of do one of those subtle eye things where I like glance at the commander, then back at a Rev, then back at the commander, then back to a Rev.
And Rev just sort of cocks his head quizzically at that gesture and attempts to surreptitiously remove his medical tricorder, which is rather difficult considering its size. I have not detected any abnormal bio readings within the shuttle. Would you like me to conduct a general scan of the area?
Won't be necessary, says Commander Anton. And you said there's a power drain. Is that correct, Ensign? A power drain?
Yes, sir.
How much time do we have? You said an hour?
Roughly, I'd give it about 55 minutes.
He goes back, and once again, instead of just his right hand, you see him take his hands off of the controls for the ship's navigation and propulsion systems, and he brings both of his hands together and just kind of brings them together, then closes his eyes, and you can see him muttering 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. He stops, and then he says, to the beginning. And then as this happens, your medical tricorder begins to go completely wild. I'm talking and the commander, as he is sitting in his chair, begins to convulse uncontrollably. I'm talking full-blown seizures. His arms start kind of wailing around, and as this is happening, his head slams down forward into the control console, and the whole ship shudders forward at maximum impulse, and all of you are thrown backwards. I need you guys to give me a fitness and security check, difficulty of 2.
You have 2. All right. I would say let's just each take a momentum here.
Yeah, sounds good.
Nice. There we go.
Getting that momentum back.
Definitely don't have a focus here. Survey says. All right, so by my count, let's see, that's 1, 2. So we get the momentum all right back. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So as the shuttle propels itself forward, there's that sudden jolt. All of you manage to maintain your footing. Go ahead and give me a insight, a Rev. Give me an insight and medicine. Difficulty of 3 on this. The commander is currently lying face down on the console. The ship is still traveling forward at full impulse. And up ahead, all of you would see, even though your scans read that there was nothing up in front of you, you guys see through the viewport this purple and black and reddish looking swirling kind of like energy field or some sort of pulsar or something of that nature. But as you're traveling forward, it starts to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and you see that it's kind of swirling around up in front of you, and you almost think you see like maybe a large face for a moment with these curved horns that come down, but then it disappears, and then it all begins to swirl. But go ahead and give us that insight and medicine, difficulty of 3.
Psychiatry or infectious diseases?
I would give you psychiatry on this one. Mm-hmm.
How many momentum you want?
I'll just take the 1.
Just take the 1. All right.
1, 2, 3. Perfect. So as you begin the medical scan with your tricorder, you are picking up multiple disconcerting readings. So as you begin this analysis, you realize that you're picking up not only the mental signal, the brain waves of the commander himself, but there is a separate brain wave that is sort of superimposing itself in his mind. And as you pick up this reading, his voice, he once again begins to mutter over and over, but his voice is deeper. It's a bit darker. To the beginning, to the beginning, to the, and then he stops. And you know that classical beep when someone's heart stops beating? You hear that on your medical tricorder. It appears the commander has died. You may wish to provide medical assistance.
Yes, then without any emotion whatsoever, but acting swiftly, Arev would, I guess, would he be the commanding officer at this point, or would that fall on Iggy?
I think Ignitrix would probably be the senior officer, quote unquote. So I think hearing the E noise, I'm going to turn immediately to Rev and say, Rev, get up here, do what you can for the commander. I'm going to see if I can't get control of the shuttle to get us away from whatever the hell that thing is.
Of course, Lieutenant. And
Let's start with a Rev. Go ahead and make a control and medicine check. Let's see if you can perhaps bring the commander back to life here. This is going to be a difficulty of 2. I'm actually going to spend a little bit of threat here because I think it's interesting. I'm going to go ahead and increase that to a difficulty 4 because I'm evil.
Okay. Well, I have augmented ability control. So it's control medicine?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Then I'll give you 1 momentum for an
I'd say
extra die.
take all 3.
Okay. So control medicine, 1 free success. I'll take all 3 momentum to roll 4 dice.
Mm-hmm.
In before.
Also, real quick, it does look like I've refreshed Firefox a few times. When I drag the momentum onto the map, I'm not seeing them. So if you guys can see them, feel free to delete them.
Issue 3.
All right.
I
No,
see 3 successes.
That'll get 4 with the augmented
ability control. So that means it brought it down to a 3. So that is a success. So here's what happens. You reach down, you begin administering the medical aid. And as you put in, maybe inject him with something, a stimulant, something to wake him back up. Once again, he springs up, sitting up straight and rigid. He turns to you, but instead of those normal looking bluish colored eyes that he had, his eyes have turned into these kind of black looking voids. And his mouth opens. As it does so, you look inside of his opened, I would call it a maw at this point, almost opens more so than it should. And very similar to this swirling purple and blues and reds and these kind of almost face-like looking image that you see in front of you, this pulsar that you see a similar picture of that inside of his mouth. And this horrific sounding kind of screeching noise comes out of it, and everyone has to cover their ears for a moment as it echoes off of the interior of the shuttle. Go ahead and everyone give me a fitness and medicine on this. Difficulty on this is just going to be a 1. I want to see if I can get you guys some momentum back, but this is just simply you covering your ears so that you don't go deaf from the ringing. Please go ahead, Rev.
I was just going to say, both of those I think are complications because of my use of augmented ability control.
Yeah, I was going to say 18 and 19. And remember, you also do have the complication from Chad earlier, so I think we're up to 3 right now.
Not wrong. That's why things got weird.
Okay.
I love it.
All right. You said fitness medicine difficulty 1, correct?
That is correct.
Excellent. All right.
I think you got us some momentum.
Yeah, so it looks like we just got the 1.
So as you do all manage to cover your ears, the ringing stops for a moment as he closes his mouth. His eyes still those black, just soulless voids. The mouth once again opens, but that image that you saw, that swirling kind of vortex of light and color that you saw coming from it, is no longer there. And he simply speaks, "We go now to the beginning." And there is that kind of cue sounding, and he disappears from in front of you. Simultaneously as this happens, there is a jolt again on the vessel as you watch as this purple swirling looking, gaseous cloud, this vortex in front of you swirls in, and like a dragon's maw opens up and just before you can even react, engulfs the entirety of the vessel. All around you, you see the purple, the swirling, all of these different colors. You start to think you see faces of loved ones, folks you know from the past, folks that you don't think you know, but they look familiar. All of these different sort of images and swirls around you mixing in with the color. This all happens in an instant, but it feels like it takes maybe hours. It's hard to explain accurately. But as all of this is going on, there is again another jolt, and you find yourselves right in front of a massive swirling orange looking, almost looks like a black hole. And from that black hole, you see this pulsing kind of energy shooting out of it. In the center of this yellow and orange swirl, it's like if it's a horizontal plane in front of you, you guys are coming into it at an angle like this.
Perpendicular, yeah.
Exactly, perpendicular. And as you see it, you see this, again, black spherical object. Go ahead and give us actually, let me ask, what would you guys like to do in this moment?
So I think Ignitrix, having witnessed and experienced all of that, is going to check the shuttle controls first to see if there's any way to stop forward momentum. But as she's doing that, she's going to turn to Arev and Petrel and go, all right, apparently we're now dealing with extraplanar entities. Pretty sure that whatever the hell we just went through is probably a gateway to some other time. Any thoughts?
I do not believe we have sufficient information to make any speculations.
And that was sort of what I was afraid of.
I'd like to get out of here.
Well, yes, Ensign, I think we'd all like to get out of here, but let's focus on not crash landing on whatever the hell that is.
Well, I believe, Lieutenant, if we get much closer to that, crash landing on it will be the least of our worries.
How do you mean?
Well, it seems to be drawing us in. If it behaves similarly to a normal black hole, then we'll be uncoiled like a ball of yarn, molecule by molecule, dying in agony for all eternity.
And there's a moment on Ignitrix's face where it looks like she wants to say something, but she bites her lip, like literally maybe even bites her lower lip and goes, right, how could I forget that? Haha, silly me.
Wonderful. Wonderful. And he'll just turn back to his console and try to, I guess, coax as much juice out of the engines as he can.
Go ahead and give me a insight and engineering difficulty of 2 on this.
Okay.
You want to take that momentum for a shot at more momentum?
I will indeed. Oh.
Oh. Well, success, but...
No, it isn't. It's a difficulty of 2.
Oh, right, difficulty. I was thinking difficulty 1, so wow. All right. Ooh.
Do you want the good news or the bad news?
I want it to be all bad.
All bad? Well, it is all bad. The good news is for me that it's all bad. So as you check the power systems, very much in line with what I had told you earlier, that drain that was, maybe about an hour, it appears that more than 2 hours have passed since you last checked. Although it feels as though it's only been, maybe 5 minutes. As I mentioned, it felt like time was elongating, but not going as fast, like you were in time, but out of time. You've got about 5% power left. It's enough to keep the life systems on, which is probably good, at least for the next 10 minutes.
Lieutenant, can you check the ship's internal chronometer?
I do so. Is it 5 minutes or 2 hours?
It's been 2 hours.
Shuttle says it's been 2 hours.
That's what I was afraid of. We have about 5% power, so I suggest that we begin making peace with whatever gods it is we worship.
Is there no way to extract any kind of environmental energy field? If there's something drawing us towards this object, could we make use of the, for lack of a better term, astrological phenomenon?
Now there's a thought. So let me make sure I understand correctly, Wolf. So the object we're heading towards is more or less a dark sphere with swirling gases around it, correct?
Correct. And it is pulsating out this kind of blast of energy. It goes 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So it
so it actually like retracts back in.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Based on what I know then of temporal mechanics, black holes, etc., and judging how much power we have left in the shuttle, would it be something where I could steer the shuttle into one of those energy plumes?
Yes. It would take all of your power, and if you failed, you would likely be caught in the gravitational wave or field of this black hole and sucked into it. So,
all right. So I'm gonna turn fully in my chair at this point to look at Petrel and Rev. All right, crazy idea here, but I think at this point we need crazy ideas. You see that energy plume? If we can tap into that energy somehow, we might be able to, restore systems enough that we could warp out of here or impulse out of here. But we only get one shot at this. If we mess this up, we're going into whatever the hell that thing is.
Lieutenant, there's absolutely no margin for error on this.
Indeed, we have to do this perfectly.
I believe that we have to do it, period, Lieutenant. After all, we have no other option. Other than, as the ensign has put it, making peace with our imagined deities.
Whatever it is for you, Vulcan, Shakari, whatever.
Pure logic.
Well, excellent. Can you logically help me with this induction field so that we don't die?
It is not my area of specialization, but I will assist you to the best of my abilities.
That's all I'll ask. Lieutenant, I imagine you'll be taking the helm for this one?
Unless you want me back there, in which case I could set the computer to do it, and I just wink at you. Yes, I'll be at the helm.
Huh. Terribly idiosyncratic. All right.
So let me just get this straight. Ignitrix is going to be piloting, and then the two of you will be assisting on the check with some sort of engineering to try and coax out maybe some additional power from the remaining batteries. Is that correct?
Yeah,
It is, and I just want to make it known that Ignitrix has a 1 in con. I just want everybody to know that.
I love this.
Almost like we planned it.
I love this.
You have capable pilots on the ship, you do realize.
Oh, I'm not.
Did a Rev just volunteer?
Yeah,
He has a con of 3.
Holy.
It's a master pilot.
This is like.
Well, relatively speaking to these two, apparently.
Very
But
much.
there's a cue from chat, and I actually, Wolf, if you'll let me, I think I know a perfect complication here.
Go for it, man.
So I think with the shuttle bouncing around, because again, inertial dampeners, we don't have power for them anymore. I think Ignitrix is stuck at the helm, where we can't trade with a Rev. So it is Ignitrix who has to make the roll here.
I love it. I love it.
Now the question is, what are we rolling?
Here's how we're going to do this. You're going to give us a control and con difficulty of 4. All right?
Okay.
Difficulty of 4. That complication I just got on the board here, that is going to increase it. Would have been a difficulty of 2, taking that up to a 4. And because I have some threat from a certain friend of ours, I'm going to go ahead and spend a few of that threat. I'm going to go ahead and make this a difficulty of 5. Now, here's the good news. Aaron and Matthew, our Rev and our Ensign, Petrel, they can assist you each. Ensign Petrel, you would give us a control engineering, and then a Rev, you would do the exact same thing. And might I say, may the gods be with you.
So, remember how I said that Ignitrix was, oh crap, I have been rolling for untapped potential. I gotta remember I have untapped potential. Make a note of that.
Yeah, same here.
Let me just grab a sticky note here real quick and write it big, bold, and Sharpie. Untapped potential. Okay, it's on my monitor now. I'm not gonna forget it. So here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking I'm actually gonna use my my future sight talent. And I'm going to call back to my opening log where I said I was planning for every failed eventuality. Let's say that Ignitrix maybe brought along an extra power cell that isn't going to last super long, but it could be the extra juice that we need. And my intent is to create that advantage to bring that down to a difficulty of 4.
Done. I love it. That's perfect.
All right. So by my count, we have 1 success on the board, which means I need to get another 3.
You have 1 momentum.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at momentum and threat here. I'm going to give you, because it doesn't matter because I've got to focus, but I got to go for it anyway. I'm going to give you 2 threat, and I'm going to spend the 1 momentum in order to roll 4 dice.
I'm going to spend that 2 threat to increase the complication range to a 17 to 20.
I know what I'm doing next Tuesday. Oh, there you go. There's the luck we want. So that is...
Oh, damn. Okay.
That's good. Yeah.
That's
okay.
A grand total of 6, I believe.
That is, let's see, that's 6. So that is 2 momentum back for you guys. Wow. Good roll. So great news. So installing the other power cell, a Rev is working in unison with Ensign Petrel. We've got Ignitrix at the helm, and it's bouncing around. It's kind of going back and forth, but you manage to, as you're driving the ship forward, it starts to kind of list to the starboard side. You're actually getting closer to the black hole, and then you manage to course correct And a few moments later, you then enter into the area where that pulse is coming out and then going in. And it's right in the moment where the pulse is moving in. And as you all look out the starboard viewport, you actually look straight down this energy wave. And in the center of this black hole, you think you see a planet. And on that planet, it's almost as though as it begins to pulse back, you actually see the planet getting closer to. It's as if this planet is moving with this pulsar, this pulse back and forth. And as it gets closer, you see the planet looks brown and barren, and actually as though it's almost a dead world. But one section of the dead world, this perfect circle of green. It almost looks like a lush forest with some plains and blue water running through it. There's a river that comes to the top, hits the edge of the circle, then runs. It's all yellowish and green, the water. Then it hits there and becomes just this beautiful blue hue. And then as it exits out of this perfect circle, it becomes yellow and red and sickly again. But you watch as this planet gets closer and closer. And as it gets closer and closer, suddenly you feel the ships start to shake and vibrate once again. But Ensign Petrel and Arev, you watch as the power systems on the vessel get more and more and more intense. You hit 100, 110, 120, 130, 140%. The whole ship begins to feel hot inside. You're all beginning to sweat because of the heat. And then there is a bloop, and you find yourselves orbiting this planet. The swirling vortex, the black sphere is gone. What is slightly disconcerting, though, is that all around you, save for this planet, you see but one star, a Earth-like, soul-like sun that this single planet orbiting in that Goldilocks zone is just ever so slowly moving around. But all around you, no other stars, no other galaxies, just this planet.
So I think Ignitrix takes a look at that, kind of looks around out of the viewport and goes, anybody, I'm not the only one seeing this, right? There's only one star out there.
It stands to reason that the area of null space that we encountered was in fact some sort of advanced cloaking field concealing this world and these astrological phenomena. We are now within it, perhaps, and that is precluding us from seeing anything outside.
Well, that would have to be one hell of a cloaking field, wouldn't it, to obscure something this large?
I believe it's likelier that we've entered into some sort of dimensional shift, perhaps are trapped within the accretion disk of this singularity. We may, in fact, be dying right now.
Well, we're all dying very slowly, but that's neither here nor there. GM, if I were to run a sensor scan of the planet, would I get any life forms?
You absolutely can make the attempt. Let's go ahead and have you give a control and science. Difficulty on this is going to be a 3, and I will explain to you why when you make the check.
Control and science. I'm going to spend 1 momentum for that third die. Do have sensor operation as a focus. 2 successes, not quite enough.
Ooh. So you do get some readings from the planet. As you begin your scan, you can see the computer starting to do a wide sweep, just like kind of an overarching sweep of the planet. You are picking up very, very heavy amounts of radiation. And as you begin this analysis, it almost looks as though the planet underwent some sort of terrible devastation, perhaps a nuclear war where the entire planet was irradiated. It is a Fallout-style apocalyptic event, save for one specific zone, roughly a 10 mile by 10 mile, 10 mile diameter area of pristine green water, flowing. You see that there are some trees, etc., but you're not picking up any life signs. However, piggybacking off of this scan that you just made, a song actually begins to play over the speakers of the shuttle. And because of copyright laws, we can't play it, but it's I Don't Want to Set the World on Fire by the Ink Spots. I don't want to set the world on fire. I just want to start a flame in your heart. And then it stops as though there's a record scratch, begins from the beginning again, and it does this 2 more times for a total of 3 playthroughs.
I'm not the only one hearing that music, right? I'm not going insane.
Oh, that remains to be seen, Lieutenant, but I hear it too. If it's some sort of auditory hallucination, I'm also experiencing it.
It appears to have the cadence of Terran music from their 20th century.
Bounce, yes, but it also sounds like a record player, which doesn't make much sense either. I mean, you hear that scratch as it scratches again. That is almost exactly what it sounds like when you do, a record player scratch. So it's skipping? Why would it be skipping?
Skipping in threes. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. The commander was repeating 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And like a record skipping, he says we're going back to the beginning. Just as this phonograph is doing right now.
It does appear as if we're dealing with some kind of psychokinetic force or entity. Perhaps these repetitions are indicative of some kind of trap or loop in which it finds itself mired.
What would you all say to me sending back a similar 1, 2, 3 song?
Well, you're the senior officer, sir.
I might be the senior officer, but a good senior officer does allow his subordinates to weigh in.
Well, if we are dealing with some sort of independent force, it may be sapient and trapped or not. We are here to seek out new life.
My thoughts exactly. So this is a little on the nose, and I don't have time to count the beats in my head, but Hung Up by Madonna? Mm-hmm. I want to send like the first minute or so back on a comm signal.
I love it. Let's go ahead and have you give a control and science with a difficulty of 2 to try and pick up the correct frequency to go ahead and actually send that back.
Cool. I'll spend the last momentum for that 3rd die. And then could I have... I'm hesitant to continue using sensor operation, but maybe something like infiltration or maybe psi abilities might be a good focus.
Infiltration. Let's go with that. Yes, that's awesome. Right. I love that. That's very... I like that. Let's do that. That's perfect.
There's 3 successes, so we get the momentum right back.
Very nice. So what's interesting is that you're scanning for, what frequency, what wave this kind of feedback came along your sensor sweep. And what you realize is that it's actually playing on a ancient Earth AM radio frequency is what you're picking this up as. And you can set the ship's sensors to send back an an AM frequency pulse back, and you can play that first part of Madonna. As you send it back, are you sending it to a particular location? Are you just doing a broadband, signal?
Just shotgunning it out.
Shotgunning it out at the planet. I love that. Mm-hmm. So you shotgun that out at the planet, and you watch as the planet is, making that slow kind of rotation. You guys are in a stable orbit around the planet, and you watch as the planet seems to stop and then pivot back the opposite direction. And that green, lush, perfect area, unlike all of the other locations around that look to be nuclear fallout and just wastelands, you watch as it pivots back, and then you guys are now in a perfect orbit right above that green, lush area. Over the radio, over the comms once again, you hear another song. Once again, it is a song by the Ink Spots, and it says, maybe you'll think of me when you're all alone. Maybe The one who is waiting for you to prove untrue. And then it kind of like goes out of key and sounds off. And it plays it again once again. So for 2 times, and then a 3rd time. And then that prove untrue. Again, you hear that record scratch at the end of each of those playthroughs, and then it stops.
Jim, can I attempt to analyze a pattern in this? Perhaps this is some form of communication. I mean, I know it's a form of communication in the form of music, but maybe there's meaning in the choice of lyrics that we're being treated to as a response to our own efforts.
Get out of my head. Just get out of there. Just stop it, Aaron. Just get right out of there. That is a perfect thing that you can attempt. What I'm going to have you do is give a reason, and I would say a reason science on this one would be what I need you to make. And then what are your focuses?
I have a focus in alternative communication.
That's perfect.
Nice.
That is absolutely perfect. That is absolutely perfect. Go for it.
I picked that because I was like, this isn't gonna come up once in the game. And I want to have one that's like a throwaway.
That is
brilliant.
What's the difficulty?
Yeah.
Oh, difficulty. I'm sorry. I'm sitting here thinking that is just the most random thing. I can't believe you had that on your character sheet. You just made me like go blank for a second. That's awesome. Difficulty on this is actually going to be a 3.
Okay.
Take the momentum.
I want to.
Oh, wait. Hold on. Untap potential. Okay, no help there.
All right.
Okay. So I am going to take that point of momentum, and Jim, I'm going to give you 2 threat because I want to roll 4 dice.
Pocket that threat. Thank you very much.
Here we go. Oh Lord.
Maybe determination. Well, maybe failure is fun. Failure is fun.
Failure, but sometimes it's one of those things where we don't have to completely dismiss the idea, but maybe we just can't. We don't have enough information yet.
So here's what I'm going to do. I'm actually going to go ahead and pocket that threat from that complication, so I can have a bunch for the climax later on, which is fantastic.
Hooray.
And you are analyzing this broadcast back, and unfortunately you're unable to really determine specifically what, if anything, whoever's sending this to you is trying to get at. You look through maybe similar songs, similar cadences, you're looking at different musical artists, etc., from all through maybe Earth's, even your own species history, and it almost seems like they want to tell you something, whoever is sending this, whatever is sending this, but you just can't put your finger on it.
Respectfully, Lieutenant, given our recent failures to actually engage in meaningful communication with this entity or the individuals on this planet, do you not believe that we are ill-equipped to actually address this situation? Perhaps if we, now that we have power restored, return to our vessel, we might leave this in more capable hands of the senior staff?
And at that, I think I just motion out of the view screen at the empty void besides the planet and the star, and I say, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but unless you see our ship floating out there, I think we're going to have to deal with whatever's on this planet before we're going to be able to get out of here.
I'm merely suggesting that we should invest our efforts in attempting to find a way out of this cloaking device, other dimension. Perhaps investigating that before attempting further communication with the surface would be advisable.
Discussing this all together on that same open comm that I'm going to assume you guys haven't closed, another song begins to play. Very similar, 3, and at the end, that record scratch. But it's we 3, we're all alone, living in a memory, my echo, my shadow, and me. And it plays that again and again. And I'll say that for you one more time. We 3, we're all alone, living in a memory, my echo, my shadow, and me, by the same musical artist from Ancient Earth, the Ink Spots, and then that same record scratch. And as that record scratch happens, the star, the sun that is behind, and you've been kind of orbiting around, pivots behind you. And as it pivots, you see the vessel that you're in, the shuttle, is actually forming a shadow just outside of this ring, this green, perfect ring that you see there. And again, you're just moving in unison. around this planet in a perfect orbit. The sun is right behind you. It's forming a shadow, and you see it right outside of this green ring.
What would it take to nudge the shuttle in so that the shadow's in the green ring?
I would have you make you've got full power right now. Honestly, if you just want to make a narrative declaration that you do that, I'm cool with it.
Can we make it a difficulty 0 task for that sweet, sweet momentum?
Yes, absolutely. Go for it. Control con.
Cool.
Oh,
Aim
man.
before 4 complications. All right. It's control con.
I'm working up to that. Just you can't just I can't just pull that out right away. Like I gotta.
We got 1 momentum out of it. We'll take it.
It's better than a kick in the teeth, as the old grandmother used to say. So you nudge yourself forward, and as you do, the planet actually rotates up and keeps your shadow exactly in the position where it's at.
Ensign Petrel, I mean, you're sort of the expert on alternative communication here. I'm thinking we're going to have to go down there and find the source of this signal because, at least to me, the planet is obviously responding to our attempts to move. Rev, it sounded like you might have something.
I merely wonder about the nature of the lyrics that have been presented to us. My echo, my shadow, and me. Obviously, if we are extrapolating from the song, our shadow is quite literally our shadow. What might be our echo? GM, could I use the sensors to see if the planet is not just responding to us physically, but perhaps is there some kind of radiation field coming from the vessel that's being picked up on by the planet that is enabling it to mirror us as our echo in terms of echoing our actions?
So I love where your mind's at. Yes, you may make a check for this. Difficulty is going to be a 2, and you would be giving let's do a reason and science. What are your focuses?
Psychiatry, mental disciplines, biology, ancient technology, ground combat tactics.
Ancient technology. I'll give you that.
Okay.
But I love you.
I love you too, Wolf. You're a great guy. So it was reason, science, and difficulty 2.
Yes, sir.
I will spend that 1 momentum if that's okay with everyone.
Oh, please. Please.
Applicable focus. Here we go.
Lovely. Now, this is where things get fun. So you're not picking up a radiation field. What you're picking up are millions and millions of tiny little power sources, as though they're like a fleet or a horde, a swarm of these tiny microscopic little like drones that are encompassing and surrounding the entirety of your vessel. You cannot see them with the naked eye. They're microscopic, but they are encompassing the entirety of your vessel, and they go down almost like a tunnel straight down to the planet. And as you move, you watch as Ignitrix maybe moves the shuttle a little bit as you're making the scan. They kind of waver a little bit, but again, it's like an echo. So have you shout into a hallway and you hear that ba-bum, ba-bum. It's like you are ba-bum, ba-bum. It's moving with you, but in an echo-like pattern.
Yeah, it's almost like we're in a stream of these nanobots and it's creating a wave through them.
Also, real quick, I have to say this because Chad did it. Chad has deemed them the midi-chlorians.
Cha-cha-cha.
Game's over. It's ruined.
All right, good game, everybody. It was fun. ELH, glad you got to be a player for one time. And all right, see you guys next week.
Star Trek's ruined. It's over. We have 2 momentum from untapped potential from me.
Awesome.
Glorious.
Then I guess Arev would just turn to the lieutenant and report those findings, indicating the power signatures that are surrounding the vessel, and then turn to Ensign Petrel. Ensign, you are far more well versed in the analysis of power systems, given your work on the shuttle's warp core in our recent crisis. Would you mind examining these findings?
Of course.
Right before Petrel does that, there's also one additional piece of information I'm going to give you because of that success. You know, Ignitrix, how you scanned earlier for life signs and picked up nothing?
Mhm.
Along with the power source and these power signatures that you picked up, you're pretty sure, you can't quite be certain. I would have you make another check to, verify this, but you think you're picking up 2 humanoid life signs down in that green lush area.
Ignitrix doesn't need to scan. She knows what this is. She has a very good hunch what this is. So she's going to turn to the others and say, well, either we're in the middle of the Big Bang or we just found the Garden of Eden.
I'm sorry, the Garden of what?
Oh, right. Sorry. I keep forgetting that none of you are human. Garden of Eden, Earth mythological stipulation that. Listen, we're all Starfleet. You know how the humans like to dominate everything.
But what? But why is it always humans? Why is everything in the universe towards humans? Why is it Gothic castles from Europe in the 16th century? Why is it?
Well, it's the same reason that I'm blue and that black holes are black. It's just the order of things. But no, Garden of Eden, a myth, a tale, a religion, tells a story of loss of innocence, gaining of knowledge, gaining of fate, etc., etc. But it's an origin story, a supposed origin story of all of humanity.
And if I'm given to understand correctly, the origin of evil itself.
Now, that's a funny topic, and I imagine, maybe the shuttle is literally moving down closer to the planet or not. I don't know what the shuttle's doing, but I think Ignitrix is going to capitalize that and say, I wouldn't say the birth of evil, no, unless you would consider having knowledge and free will to be evil.
Quite frankly, I don't believe that free will is compatible with a materialistic understanding of the universe. Therefore, it's neither good nor evil, but that's likely a philosophical conversation for another time.
Well, philosophical or not, I think that's probably germane to everything we've experienced so far. I mean, let's take the commander, for example. Not only was he picking up on this signal somehow, but correct me if I'm wrong, Jam, he was human, if I recall correctly.
Yep, he was human. Mm-hmm.
So I say, yeah, he was human, which, if that's the case, maybe he had a special connection to this place, which might explain his symptoms and might also explain why he was so adversely affected, I guess is a word for it. But let's also consider the 1, 2, 3 record scratch mantra. It's, again, a human design. It is a human form of communication. And everything that we're seeing with these, whatever we're calling these little microscopic organisms or robots, something is telling us to go down to this planet. Something is trying to contact us, I feel.
And I'm going to interject here for just a moment because I want Petrel to be able to make his check for the power systems, but simultaneously, go ahead, Petrel, give us a reason and engineering difficulty of 2 on this, just to see if you can maybe identify what kind of power systems are, where they're getting their power from, etc. But over that comm, once again, a song plays once more by the Ink Spots. Oh, what I'd give to see the face of you. I was a fool to stay away from you so long. And it does it once again 3 times. That final time with that record scratch, and then the comms actually cut. Well, they have power.
If this is Lieutenant, humor me for a moment. Could you perform a geological survey of this planet and compare it to known records of the geological makeup of Earth?
GM, could I just throw it into the computer and get an answer?
If you would like to give me that momentum that you have, I would say yes.
I mean, if you guys think it's worth it.
So you remember how, as you were traveling through that vortex, you saw images of folks that you knew, folks that you think you knew, but you'd never met. It was very strange. This planet is like a very, very perfect copy of Earth, but it's not Earth, but it's very close. I mean, the details are minute. Now, one of the details that are similar is geological makeup, the amount of different minerals, etc. Even the atmosphere, if you take away the horrific amount of radiation, is similar to, Class M, classical Earth-like planet. But again, the oh my gosh, I'm having a mental block here for massive pieces of land.
Continents.
Continents. Wow, just my brain just went that. But the continents are different. And the actual setup of the mountain ranges, etc. Those are all different. But the makeup, you would swear it was Earth if it wasn't for just those slight variances.
So Jim, it's like Earth if you bought it on Wish.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, that's a great way to put it.
All these Terran references, I just don't understand them.
I know. Why do we keep making them? Anyway, with that report and what the song just was, I think Ignitrix is going to just turn to the others again and say, well, again, I think we're being told we have to go down there, or at least that's the intent of whatever intelligence is down there. So unless anyone has any objections, I'm going to pilot us down to the surface.
Any objections?
All right, down to the planet we go.
And as we watch as the shuttle begins to glide down to the planet, we see the shadow getting bigger and bigger and bigger as it gets closer and closer and closer. And as you all begin to get closer to the planet, you see that this perfect looking circle with all of this lush forest and plains and grass and beautiful blue water, you see that you are going to be landing maybe a mile or two outside away from it where the shadow is located, but you can see just up and over that kind of horizon towards where it is a massive gate with an angelic looking figure on one side and a demonic looking figure on the other. And ELH, if it's all right, I think this is a good time for us to take a quick 5 to 10 minute break.
10-minute break.
Come on.
All right,
back.
everybody.
So,
we'll be back in about 5 to 10 minutes. We're going to be on a non-standard BRB, but we'll be back shortly. Stick around. Welcome back, everybody, to part 2 of the Ignitrix one-shot as GM'd by Monsieur Der Wolf. And since I'm not the GM, I'm going to shut up now and look back at Der Wolf.
I'm just going to stare blankly at you for the next
Can we savor that for just a minute?
The GM noticed.
Everybody.
The GM will remember this. Pops up on the left side of your screen.
Remember that shit.
Oh, hard yikes. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. All right. So as we come back into the scene and we watch as the shuttle is landing, I mean, Iggy, with that fantastic roll from earlier, I'm assuming you're just a master pilot. You didn't even know it yourself. Maybe you even look a little surprised. But we watch from an exterior shot of the shuttle as it floats down, lands, a little bit of a jostle. And as you look out the view screen, I'm going to explain to you what you see. You see a very similar looking kind of burned out Earth style city that you're in. And when I say burnt out, think of, again, a kind of fallout town that you would walk through. Buildings are crumbling, wood is torn away, things are rusted, etc. Now, what's different is that all of the items that you see, maybe an old looking tricycle, an old bus stop, a building, are between 3 and 10 times larger than the average human would be. So a doorway, you could fit 10 people through it at once. Another one looks maybe common size to a human, but all of these different buildings are of different sizes and designed for different sized creatures. Out in front of you, though, you think you see what look like skeletal remains. Some of them are massive and huge, as though it was a large giant. Others are small. You see animal-looking ones. It's not littering the ground as though you'd walk over it and you're crunching through rib cages, but you see a body there, you see a skeleton there, you see one there, you see one there, and you're noticing, again, all different sorts, manners, different skull shapes. One looks maybe like it was a horse person. One looks like it could have been shaped like a squid monster. You're not sure, but you're seeing all of these different ones outside. Now go ahead, and I'd like someone on the crew to give us a control and science just to get a brief scan of the surrounding area.
But I'm going to let a Rev take this one.
Well, I think it's good if you take it there.
That bad science
whoever
score,
takes that.
Not as good as yours.
All right, fair enough. I'll roll.
well,
What was the
Iggy does
difficulty
that.
again?
Petrel's going to get a gun.
Two.
Difficulty of 2. Yeah, we'll spend that one momentum. Why not? Let's see. Would you give me a focus in infiltration again, or no?
No, not on this one. What are your other focuses?
That would apply to this situation. Maybe sensor operation, maybe temporal mechanics if I was dating the skulls. I also have away team leadership.
Let's do sensor operation. That one will be fine here. I'm good with that.
All right, cool. It's the power systems of science. And that's not only a no, that's a no with a complication. Nice.
I love it. So what's maybe disconcerting as you go to boot up the sensors and begin your scan, you actually push the button and you get that error. Push it again. And for whatever reason, the sensors on the ship are no longer functioning.
Petrel, why aren't my sensors working?
You broke them.
Well, yes, Captain Obvious, I'm aware. Why are they broken in the first place?
Well, let's have a gander, GM. Why are they broken?
It's a great question. Why don't you give us an insight engineering difficulty of 2 check?
All right.
And we have no momentum at the moment.
That's fine.
Do you recall all of those tiny nanites, the midichlorianites, as chat said, I believe was the technical term for them? Do you remember those?
They get in the workings?
They are, well, they're forming a bubble around your vessel. And from that bubble, this kind of spherical bubble, there are tendrils of those nanites, just a single nanite long, that have punctured into the ship's systems. Now, these things are again on a microscopic, even atomic level at times. You're picking up these small little signals. They have come in and they are draining the ship's systems.
Wow. That is horrifying.
Good
Lieutenant?
news, though, is you know how it's all radiated and horrible outside?
Mm-hmm.
The area inside of the bubble of these nanites, Class M atmosphere, no radiation, completely sustainable.
Well, Lieutenant, would you like the good news or the bad news or the worst news first?
Good news first.
The good news is that for the moment, we're safe. The bad news is those nanites have gotten into the machinery. And
the even worse news?
Well, they're forming a sort of cocoon around the shuttle on a microscopic level, growing more dense over time. They'll eventually, I hypothesize, they'll eventually merge with the ship completely. I have no telling what they will do to us if they make contact with us. We may be, what's a good word for being taken over by machinery? We assimilated. Well,
no, that doesn't happen yet. That's 200 years from now. But I know what you mean. Yes.
Should we not seek to remove them immediately then? Would not some form of radiation pulse correlated with the power signatures of their... You never actually did determine how they are powered, did you?
No, but I can tell you that they're draining power from our shuttle.
Hold on.
I want to clarify something really quick for you. Is as Iggy was trying to use, as Ignitrix was trying to use the sensors, specifically, it drained power from the sensors and prevented her. So that was my mistake not to clarify that.
Oh, okay.
And for example, if you moved over to activate maybe the engines or something.
Engines and sap power from the engine.
Exactly. So it's preventing you from using the systems, but as soon as you move away, that power returns.
So it's based on physical proximity.
Correct.
To the Lieutenant, there's a type of intelligence at work here.
That
Maybe
much is
rudimentary.
obvious, yes.
I don't know how to stop it, though.
I think the way we stop it is we have a conversation with the intelligence behind the machines.
And perhaps quite so. For the moment, though, these nanites are providing us with what we need to survive if we were to venture outside.
A red carpet, as you will.
And funny you should mention red carpet. As
Or
you
a gilded cage.
Analyzing this gilded cage, as you were analyzing this swarm of nanobots, you watch as this kind of, M-class atmosphere. There is a hallway that emanates out from the front of the vessel towards the direction of where you saw those double doors, those wooden, maybe look to be made of wood with the angelic image visage on one and then the demonic visage on the other. You watch as this little pathway merges out. Now it's only about 30 feet or so long up in front, but it's like a doorway, like a hallway is being presented to you, or a red carpet, as it were.
Can I make a little declaration about how it looks?
Yes.
If you look directly at it, you see nothing. However, it's sort of like those motes of dust that get caught in your eye.
Yes.
You can never look right at them because you'll never you never pick them up, but they're always on the periphery. So you can, if you're staring straight down, you can sort of see this canopy. But if you look directly at it, you just see the open air.
Ignitrix is gonna just push a button that's gonna pop open the shuttle hatch and say, "Well, gentlemen, I think we have somebody to go say hello to."
All right. Now, one moment. And Patrell will go to the rear, press a button on the wall, a panel slides open, and he removes one of those leather phaser holster belts from TOS and a hand phaser, and just spin there and look back at it. Anybody else want one?
No, I've got my own, and I flick my fingers, and a little bit of psychokinetic flame hovers above my hand.
Horrifying.
Fascinating. I would appreciate being armed, Ensign. However, I believe, regardless of the largesse and magnanimity of our hosts, we should still be inoculated against the radiation that is present on this planet, if you would permit me.
I'm allergic to hydronoline.
I can easily accommodate that.
Well, then yes, but please, by all means.
Let's get you all some momentum. You're going to make a difficulty 0 check, and this is you inoculating the crew.
Please roll a complication when you treat me.
I would love it. It would be great.
Please.
2 things. Can I double check his medical records very quickly as I'm gathering together the hyposprays to see if he is actually allergic to hydronoline? And if he's not, I'm injecting with hydronoline.
Nice.
Yes, you may.
Okay.
He's actually allergic to it.
Okay, then I will not. So that was medicine and what?
That would be a controlled medicine, difficulty of 0. Let's try to get you guys some momentum.
And you should spend some to increase the complication range on this one.
Oh my lord.
Yes.
Oh my lord. Are you fucking kidding me?
Yes.
What?
Yes.
How?
Yes.
How?
Yes.
Matthew, what the shit? Damn it. God damn it.
That's incredible. That's amazing.
I'm not even mad. Like, I'm impressed.
I wanted sometimes it's like, dreams do come true because I wished and wished so hard for this to happen.
We really are lower decks officers, aren't we? Wow.
What's interesting about your inoculation of your other 2 crew members as well as yourself is everything seems to go fine.
God, that's even worse than knowing what we failed at.
And everything actually seems to go quite well. And at this point, really all that's left is for you to exit the vessel and head off into the wild blue yonder, as it were.
Well,
All right. Ensign, you're in front because you're our security officer.
yeah, yes, sir. All right.
Can one of those complications be that Arev actually did use Hieronolin? Because now I'm
I
curious what
think
Petrel's...
I want. Here's what I want. I'll make a deal with you.
Mm.
I want both of those complications to apply to Petrel. I want everything that's bad. I want the bad things in life to happen to him and nobody else but to him.
That's too
So-
stereotypical.
Petrel, it's interesting you should mention that, because as soon as you step off of the vessel, you hear this kind of ringing, buzzing sound, as though, like when you hear that high-pitched squeal after maybe a loud explosion, then noise.
Tinnitus.
But on the back end of that, you also hear music, and it's just the melody for a few moments. And then you hear, never thought I'd fall, but now I hear your call. I'm getting sentimental over you. And it just plays once, twice, 3 times. And then there's just this constant ringing in your ear. It's not loud. It's not like true tinnitus where it's like almost deafening, but it's just ever so slightly in the back of your hearing.
I don't mind the music, but the ambient noise is a little much. It's not loud enough to be deafening, but it's just loud enough to be annoying.
The two of you, the other 2 lieutenant junior grades, you would notice that Ensign Petrel's left hand is scratching at his left leg, and then it scratches 1, 2, 3, and then taps 1, 2, 3, scratches, and then 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, so I'm gonna point out that I'm gonna say, Ensign, there is no music, and you're doing what the commander was doing before he went poof.
Oh, yes, I suppose the commander was on some godforsaken, hell-blasted planet heading towards a demonic gate. Although that would explain a few things.
It is only half demonic, of course. Half of it is angelic, which is actually a deviation from the Terran mythology. Regardless, may I have permission to scan you?
Of course.
Very good.
So
And
I have the second complication.
oh, good.
Yes, your medical scanner isn't picking up an Ensign Petrel. It's as though he doesn't exist.
Fascinating. It seems that I imagine and he's actually going to take out a regular tricorder to try to scan the atmosphere. Have the droids or the microscopic machines affected the tricorder?
They have not. Your tricorder is functioning as it should.
Follow-up question then, if you'll let me, Matthew. Have the micro machines affected Ensign Petrel?
There is no Ensign Patrol.
That's my thought, though, is that they got into him and now there isn't one.
Well, Lieutenant, it seems as if I am unable to actually scan the ensign, and I am at a loss as to an explanation as to why. If his symptoms progress in a fashion similar to that of the commander, it is likely they begin to exhibit psychological aberrations. May I have permission to initiate a mind meld?
I think Ignitrix kind of puts a hand to her chin and thinks about that for a moment. Not quite yet, Arev. I'm thinking we need to get inside these gates and we need to interface with what's in there. And if what I think's in there, then I need you at 100%, and you mind melding with someone that you just admitted doesn't exist.
I'm standing right here.
No, you're a figment of our imagination. You don't exist, Ensign.
Ensign, as they are talking about you as though you don't exist, you've ever felt that desire, like, you just really want to do something, and that desire takes on a physical pull. It's as though there is a rope or a chain or something attached to your chest, and it's kind of pulling you forward. It doesn't hurt, but you are feeling this pull and this desire, the sensation you have. It's like that feeling when you've been on a long trip and you had a great time, but damn, it feels good to get home. Home is just over that ridge. Right there. You can feel it. You know it's there. And man, it sure would be nice to go home.
Well, since I clearly don't exist, then it wouldn't do any good to mind meld with me in the first place. And also, the lieutenant's quite correct. If I'm affected in any way by any of these microscopic nanites, it may affect you. So
my mental discipline would preclude that, and I believe that your skills as an engineer would be vital to our survival. I could reinforce your own mental discipline. Nonetheless, if you do not consent to it, I would not force the matter.
Well, I feel perfectly fine, apart from this buzzing and the occasional music. There it is again. Atom bomb,
You actually do
baby.
hear music again. And this time you hear someone's rocking my dreamboat. Someone's invading my dream. We're sailing along so peaceful and calm. Then suddenly something went wrong.
Oh,
Well, Ensign, share with the class. What's the music this time?
well, there's hang on, it's got one more loop.
Incoming
There it goes.
transmission.
Oh, real quick. Thank you, lords and ladies of fate, for the raid of 15 people.
Oh,
hello,
hey,
welcome.
guys.
My name's ELH. I'm a VTubing game master, as you can see. And we're doing a special one-shot right now featuring my own character. So I actually get to play for once. But thank you all for dropping in. Hopefully you all were doing quite well. And as I do the shouts and stuff, Aaron, back to you.
Well, somebody's rocking my dreamboat. Somebody's invading my dream. We were sailing along so peaceful and calm. That's all quite lovely. But the last part here is really what concerns me. Suddenly something went wrong.
As he says that, Arev, your medical tricorder begins giving you a beeping alarm. And that beeping alarm is the sound that it makes, like a Geiger counter. It's starting to... And as you maybe pick it up and view, you watch as this field of these nanobots is starting to encroach upon where you're standing. And your space is starting to get smaller and smaller, but it's kind of trying, almost as though it's like you're being herded towards those double doors, or at least towards the direction of that. And Ensign Petrel, that desire is becoming stronger and stronger. It's not painful. It's not as though, you cannot resist it. But I mean, at this point, why would you want to?
Lieutenants, it seems like that's a pretty strong indication that we should head this way. So I will take point. And Petrel will begin to march down the passageway towards the gate.
To use your description, Petrel, that glint, as you see like the little floaters or the dust particles, where if you look directly at them, you can't see them, but you do see that shimmer, as though there is this sphere, this half sphere that is moving along with you, and it narrows kind of out in the front, almost to a slightly like a tip, like a spear pointing forward. And it takes you all a bit of time. And to describe the area around you again, you see an untold number of different skeletal remains, large creatures, small creatures, animalistic, humanoid. You see buildings of all a kind of, again, ancient Terran, ancient Earth architecture, but of different sizes, made for different size creatures, etc. And as you get closer and closer, again, you move up and over a hill, kind of up this hill. And then as you get to the crest of the hill, you look down and you see this. The best way to describe it would be this beautiful, pristine garden behind a high wooden wall. And when I say wooden, it's not like it's stakes, it's not like large poles, but just perfect wooden planks that form this beautiful circle. And as you get closer and closer, you see the gate is two images. And they are, what's interesting, and it'll take you a moment to realize this, but you see an image on the gate, Ignitrix. You see what looks like one of your species, both with these angelic, beautiful wings. And on the other side, it's actually colored. You can see the color, a red version of you, but with horns and large fangs. Arev, you see, again, a stoic looking, well put together. You can feel it. Although it is just carved into the wood, you can feel that this is a Vulcan who has achieved complete peace, has no issues with emotion.
Kolinar.
Complete control. On the other side, you see what Vulcans fear most, losing all control, the violence of their past. And Ensign Petrel, same sort of thing for you. You actually see both sides of your history. You see yourself as a species you are, and you also see kind of more, maybe a more chaotic of the planet that you were grown up on. And superimposed over these images that you see of your own species, your own cultures, you see angelic, classical, angels from, Christianity, the kind of the ancient Bible of Earth. You see these angels superimposed, and it's as though you're seeing both simultaneously, and they kind of waver for a few moments. And as you look at the gate, you feel a pull, equal pull towards each of them. You're about 30 feet, maybe 50 feet away from it at this point. The area of non-radiation, this Class M atmosphere, has formed a perfect kind of circle and cube, not a cube, but a sphere, kind of creating a half sphere surrounding the gate, and gives you a chance to make your choice of how you'd like to enter.
Before we move on to the doorway or make any determination, of the beings that we've seen or the skeletal remains that we've encountered, when you say there is a diversity of sizes, do you mean that there's actually a wide range of them? Or I see a horse person that is human-sized and one that is giant-sized, or are there variations between the two?
Of old sorts. So you could see one that maybe is a Vulcan skeleton, but there's also a Vulcan skeleton that's 20 feet tall. You see a horse-like person, but there's also one that's 20 feet tall and small. So you're seeing variations not only of the different species, but also different sizes of these species. And again, it would take you many, many, many days, maybe even weeks to analyze all of them. But again, you're seeing all those different sizes and types, correct?
But I mean, just to clarify, is it just large and small, or there are variations that
Variations
sort of like
in between
gradations
as well. In between
Okay.
as well. Yep.
All right.
I think Ignitrix is going to turn to Rev and say, Lieutenant, you remember that brief moment we had where we were talking about what is good and what is evil?
Indeed.
Well, I motion at the gates. It seems we're being given a choice here. We can either take the good path, or we take what is typically considered to be the evil path. Now, I know the instinct is to take the good, but I honestly think the answer here is to take the evil path.
Lieutenant, if I may,
Go ahead.
the choice is not between good and evil. The choice, the duality, much as our own, is order and chaos. Morality is not a part of it, simply order and chaos. The two parts of the whole.
The mention of order and chaos, simultaneously with the mention of good and evil, you both feel this dual kind of pull, very similar to what I described for Ensign Petrel, but you feel this one side, and it swirls around, where you feel this pull to the left, and then this pull to the right, pull to the left, pull to the right, and it's as though that chaos, that order that you described, that good, that evil, you are feeling a pull towards one door for a moment, then the other, one door, then the other inside of you. And so to give you a better idea, Arev, you feel as though you are in complete control of your emotions for a moment. And then for a split second, you feel anger and love and desire and passion and this uncontrollable urge just to scream. And it takes you a moment to resist it, but you do. And then you're back to feeling in control. Ignitrix, you are feeling, now you have a bit of that psychic energy and the powers you can. You are feeling as though you could reach out and touch heaven itself. And then for a moment, you feel as though you cannot even hear your own thoughts. And then you feel it again. And that kind of feeling of being able to reach out and touch heaven itself is coming from the chaos. And that feeling of maybe not being able to like hear yourself, but there's also a peace in that. There is a safety because that also means no one can reach into you. So you're getting all of these different swirling emotions. And Ensign Petrel, you described how you're feeling with great purpose, and that was perfect. So I'm not even going to add anything to that, but I just wanted to kind of give you that, what you guys are experiencing.
I appreciate it. So, again, I think, we pick up that conversation where I say, well, the Rev, if the expression you're giving me is the same one that I'm having internally, you're feeling a pull towards one gate, am I correct?
Indeed, and it is almost an emotional experience, which is impossible as I have undergone Kolinar. Something about this place is clearly rewriting my neural pathways.
Well,
distressing.
Unfortunately, I think this is where our paths diverge, as I motion towards the Chaos Gate, as it were. If I know what I know about your species, the Vulcan, you're drawn towards order, you're drawn towards logic. My path? Well, it's always been one of chaos. My species has always been one of chaos.
As you say that, there is a and that door ever so slightly opens, just wide enough to where you could slip in between the two doors and get inside.
It would seem that this is a binary choice being imposed upon us. The reality that my people have confronted throughout our history is that although we seek to impose normalcy, control, and reason on chaos, even one who has undergone Kolinar is confronted with the reality that it is still a part of us.
And as you end that sentence, the door representing order opens up. That pull that you've been feeling, Ensign Petrel, that desire to go home, in your mind's eye, you see a beautiful cabin on top of a hill. And man, it's just over the next ridge. You know it's just over the next ridge, and you can almost smell the fresh baked pie, whatever type of food you desire most from home. It smells delightful, and you can hear laughter from someone that you care about. You're not sure who, but you know that they're just over the edge, and you feel a desire to go right down the middle of those two doors.
Yeah. Lieutenant Ignitrix, Lieutenant Rev, best of luck, Godspeed. And he will walk straight through the center.
As you watch him walk straight through the center, you know that description that we've made of kind of those nanites, kind of sparkles, almost little floaters around. You see almost a halo of them around him for a brief moment as he crosses the threshold into there. And then as he crosses in, you see him begin walking. And as he begins walking through, his Starfleet uniform seems to kind of flake and fade away and be replaced with just a old style, like Amish shirt, maybe like just no buttons. And he's wearing kind of old slacks. You see he's got these black shoes on, and he looks almost like a peasant. Now, Ensign Petrel, you don't see any of this. You're still in your Starfleet uniform. You look as yourself, but you still feel that draw and desire to move forward.
I will just follow it.
Perfect. The other two?
I think recognizing that this impulse has been imposed upon him from an external source, can a Rev try to fight it and return to the shuttlecraft?
Absolutely. He's welcome to do so.
Then that is what he's going to try to do. Double checking his medical kit to ensure that he is inoculated against the radiation. Once he leaves the Class M atmosphere, he's going to try to make his way back to the shuttlecraft and find some way to depart the planet by scattering this field of microorganisms or micro robots.
Remember all those complications you rolled earlier when everything
I
was,
do indeed.
you know, yeah, you remember that radiation you tried to inoculate yourself against? It didn't work. Yeah. You turn to walk towards the ship, and you think you are, and then you realize you've walked into that garden. And as you turn back, the door is shut behind you. But Ignitrix, the doorway is still open for you. Do you enter in, or do you fight it?
Just to be clear, Arev did go through the order gate, correct?
Arev did walk through the ordered gate.
Okay. Then I think Ignitrix, alone in this alien world, this war-torn world, she's going to look around, and then is going to do something that her species can do, not just because she's my species, but because she's always had this ability. She's going to kind of sit on the air and just psychokinetically levitate for a moment.
Gotcha.
And she's going to put a hand to her chin and say, well, it seems here that I'm being given a choice here. We've all been given a choice, and the ensign's chosen a middle-of-the-road path. And while Arev, whether he meant to or not, has been led to the culmination of his species, everything that his species wishes to have. But for me, there was only ever one way it could end. In fact, I should be seeing 3 gates, not just 2. Which does mean, if this is what I think it is, me going through that gate is going to cause some interesting complications. Well, far be it for me to disappoint my host. And she hops down to the ground, dusts off her uniform, and in through the chaos gate she goes.
And as the 3 of you have now entered in, you actually find yourselves, if you look to the others, imagine Ignitrix is now wearing a kind of a classical, maybe, dress of some sorts, like you'd see on like Little House on the Prairie or something like that. And Arev is wearing a grass-looking kind of like straw hat. But again, as you look to yourselves, you see your normal Starfleet clothing, but as you look to each other, you see these different-looking outfits upon you. And as you're making your way forward, you hear the sounds of birds, classical earth birds. You hear tweeting, you hear maybe a woodpecker, but you also hear other species from more alien worlds. Maybe a gorn or something like that you hear and whatnot. But as you're making your way, you don't actually see any of these creatures. You just hear them like ambient noise. And you begin moving forward and more and more and more. And eventually you come to what looks like not a very well-worn path, but a path that has been traversed at least by some. It's noticeable, although subtle. And you follow this path. It kind of winds to the left, to the right. You get into a bit of a more denser forest, the sounds of nature. You even think you hear maybe a deer's antlers rubbing against the bark. You can hear that. You hear trees waving in the light breeze. And you hear the sound of water. You hear this trickling kind of stream. It's peaceful. It's almost calming as you hear this. And eventually the forest begins to kind of sparsen, gets a little bit more sparse. And up ahead, the road, this little pathway you're going on, begins to rise up and up and up. The top of that, you see a little tiny cabin, roughly 100 feet or so down the side of this, relatively steep hill, about 60-degree angle. You see a man, looks to be a human man. And he is sitting on what looks to be just a wooden bench, wide enough for 2 to 3 people to sit at, 3 if they were very close. And in his hand, he has a little reed flute. And he's playing a song. You all recognize the song as the first song you heard come over the sound system back on the shuttle. I Don't Want to Set the World on Fire. And he's playing it very slowly and very similar to the way that you heard it come over the radio or over the comms, where it would play, begins to play the first part, then stops, kind of almost like blowing too hard where it scratches. He does it again and again, and then he takes it, shakes his head, brings it back up to his lips, and tries again.
So, Darewolf, I have to ask an out-of-character question here.
Sure.
How much would you like me to throw a curveball here?
You know what? This is your show, and I am here to accommodate. So get weird.
Okay. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to look to the others to first, and I say, when I said this could only go one way, I meant it. You all are going to be able to leave here in a moment, but I'll be staying here.
Well,
Can you elaborate as to why?
Well, someone has to take care of this place. Someone has to take care of the multitude of multiverses that stretch out from this point in time.
You appear to be in possession of information regarding the nature of this location that eludes us. It would be conducive to our understanding if you were to take the time to explain.
But see, there's the problem. I don't have the time. In fact, the time it would take to explain what is actually going on here would take not only your lifetime, but the lifetime of almost the entire universe. After all, didn't you ever think it was odd that my species, the Zenet, simply showed up one day at the Federation? That had always been a member of the Federation. Didn't you ever find that odd, that we were always a founding member, but then sometimes not the founding member?
well. Are you telling us it's one of those things that we just simply cannot know?
In a sense. But you're not going to go alone. You're going to take George here back, and hopefully, if George is in a cooperative mood, you're going to get the commander back as well.
I'm sorry, George?
Yeah, that's his name, George. One playing the flute? Yeah, that's George.
He raises his hand and gives you a very slight wave.
Hello, George.
From up at the cabin, you see a woman appear dressed again in that kind of classical Little House on the Prairie style. And then from behind her, you see someone that you haven't seen in a while. And he looks a little groggy, kind of yawns as he steps out. But you see Commander Anton right next to her.
Well, that's one problem down. Commander, how are you feeling?
A bit confused as to where are we? He shouts down the hill.
Long story short, you're at the beginning of everything. And the end of everything.
How do we get back?
Well, you, the ensign, and the lieutenant are going to head back to the shuttle, and I will remain here.
All right. And he's going to walk down the hill. And what you would notice as he does this is he's kind of walking down the hill towards you all. He looks a little bit out of it, not out of it as he was prior, where he was almost insane. He looks just like he's very groggy, very exhausted, and gives you no pushback on this. Simply looks to the ensign and the other lieutenant junior grade and says, "Your orders are to return with me. Let's go." And that pull you've been feeling, Ensign Petrel, is gone. It's no longer there. That back and forth kind of chaotic feeling you've been feeling, Lieutenant Junior Grade Arev, is also gone. And you feel once more like yourselves. And, well, your commanding officer just gave you an order. What would you like to do?
Be right there, Commander. This field has to be filled with allergens.
You feel a little sneezy right now.
That's starting already.
Yeah.
Would you like an antihistamine, Ensign?
Please, yes.
Yes. And he would take out a hypo, inject him, turn over to the commander, and actually just assess him to see if there are any lingering after effects other than the grogginess.
Mm-hmm.
Lieutenant, are you being coerced to remain here?
Well, that's the funny thing about fate. Are you ever truly in master? Are you truly the master of your own? Or is it your fate to be the master of others? In a sense, damning yourself to never have your own free will.
As I stated earlier, I believe that we are all merely products of the mechanistic universe, a series of atomic collisions and interatomic interactions that have taken place inevitably since the dawn of time. In other words, there never is a choice.
Then I believe
George
you've answered your own question.
I have indeed. Each of us is, in the end, compelled.
George has stood up, and Ignitrix is giving you a very knowing look, and then gestures over his left shoulder, that's left side, the chaotic side, left shoulder up towards where the woman is standing, and just kind of makes that gesture, and then gestures towards the others, and hey, it's time. We need to get moving.
Right, so I think Ignitrix begins to move towards George, and I think she kind of puts a hand on George's shoulder, and George begins to, let's say George begins to not fade away, but it's almost one of those things where he does the classic TOS transporter effect where he kind of shimmers, and George dematerializes, and then so does the woman. And then all that's left on this hill, on this cabin, is Ignitrix herself. But she's no longer in a Starfleet uniform. She is in white robes. She is in, if you've ever seen my art out of character, her classical white sort of robes with the yellow golden corset. And she turns to the party and says, "You'll be seeing me in the future. You won't know you're seeing me, but you will. And do me one favor. There's going to be a time approximately 233 years from now when Commander Sarus is going to be on a away mission with a certain alien creature. I want you to tell him one thing, and one thing only. Shoot the black hole."
And with that, you watch as Ignitrix, everything around you begins to pan back as though you were literally being pulled away from her. And you see as there's that similar pulse that you saw when you were originally sucked in to that energy field towards where this planet is. And you watch as you're almost seeing time reverse itself, and you are pulled back. The doors are open. They slam in front of you. You're pulled back and back and back. You find yourselves once again inside of the shuttle. And there's a comm, incoming comm. And you hear it is your ship. And they're asking, "Where the hell have you been?" And that's where we will end the Ignitrix special. Thank you, everybody.
So to sort of spoil the mystery a little bit here, I think that's a good origin story because it is Ignitrix literally becoming the master of fate, the master of, possibilities, and the master
game
of all
master.
The game master, yeah. I mean that's literally what it was. Yes. But I don't know, it was good. Now there's a canon reason why she's there and why her species is always around. I don't know. What did you two think? Because I know you guys were more or less along for the ride, but I wanted to make sure you guys had fun as well.
Oh, I was happy to. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Just playing is fun. That doesn't. I'm more than content to be in the passenger seat for this one. It was a lot of fun.
And I must say, Wolf, being able to experience your style of GMing and your marvelous command of atmosphere and tone was in itself a delight. So if you just want to sort of tell me stories for a couple hours, I'll be there for that.
That's really sweet. I really appreciate that. I want to just say to ELH, thank you for letting me kind of take over the stream here this evening. And I as someone who is a forever GM a lot, but has had the pleasure of being able to play in your games, I was so pleased to be able to put on something special and also help you maybe tell a little bit of the origin story. It went the direction I was hoping. So as soon as you kind of jumped in at the end there, I was like, awesome. We didn't plan this, everybody. Real talk. This was not planned. I wanted to set this up, and I just that's what happens when you get a lot of, creative folks together. And again, to Matthew and Aaron, thank you guys so much. I've never had a chance to game master for any of you. And I'm pleased as punch. I had an absolute riot. You all did fantastic. And I just want to say thank you. So yeah, that's all she wrote, folks.
All right. Well, Twitch and YouTube, thank you both for tuning in. YouTube, this is where we say goodbye, but Twitch, stick around because we're going to raid somebody. But YouTube, bye-bye.